And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicinda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard, and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games and help amazing players find great designers whose games they can love. We do that in a lot of different ways, but the most fun way is sitting down with those designers to play those games, which is what we're doing tonight. We're actually going to do something we don't get to do a lot, which is doing a multi-part series rather than just a one-shot, which is what we typically do. But when we started talking about doing this game, I immediately asked Rae if we could set aside the time to be able to do that. And I'm very excited that he said yes. So Rae, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about Apocalypse Keys for people who might just be joining us.
Yeah, so hello everybody. My name is Rae. My pronouns are he, they, and I like to make games. I like to work on TTRPGs. This is my full-time thing, which is pretty cool. And so I work on various things, get to collaborate with a lot of cool people, but Apocalypse Keys is my chunkiest game, my biggest game, my kaiju Godzilla baby. So I've been working on Apocalypse Keys for, I recently looked it up. I saw that first tweet where I was like, I'm reading Hellboy comics today for inspiration. It was like so wild to see that tweet. But yeah, it's been 2 years, and Apocalypse Keys is a game of monsters that hold back the apocalypse. We work for the shadowy organization, The Division, and we are here to track down the harbingers, find the ancient doors of power, grasp keys in order to unlock the truth, our version of the truth, right? So yeah, and Apocalypse Keys is inspired by several PBTA games, including Brindlewood Bay, The Between. So Apocalypse Keys uses the same mystery system with a few tweaks. And as well as a whole slew of other like PBTA games. It's there's a list of games that inspired Apocalypse Keys, but it is very much its own thing. It's very cool. It is also on Kickstarter right now. We are crowdfunding, which is very cool. So the moment you back Apocalypse Keys, you get access to the PDF, which is pretty much close to finish. We're really just waiting for the art to come in, and we're doing a few more final like editing, proofing passes. But yeah, so people are already talking about the game and playing the game, which is really cool.
Also, and hacking the game. Kyle Tam put out a playbook. Was that earlier today? Was that yesterday? I don't know. It was recently. I was very excited to see it. Was very excited to see things coming up. So I'm very excited about it. The game's funded. You're unlocking stretch goals right now. Speaking of contributors and people who have stretch goals coming, let's meet our one of our other players, and we'll meet both of them in time. But Josh, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online?
Hello, hi. I'm Josh. I use he/him pronouns. I also like making tabletop games and tabletop game-related things. You can find such things, talk about it sometimes on Twitter over at Ostrich Monkey, also on itch.io at the same place, Ostrich Monkey. Yes, I have been lucky enough to have contributed and helped Rae on Apocalypse Keys. It has been incredible seeing the game evolve through the whole developmental process. And I am not the next stretch goal, but the one after that. When we hit it, I will be able to write a cool playbook called The Chained, which is about having horrible power and obligation, et cetera, et cetera. It is partially based off of what I find cool about Chainsaw Man. So if you like that series, you're going to want to get this one unlocked.
Yeah, and we're heading there. Plus, the one before that, the stretch goal from Sienna, is a division branch, and it involves an NPC, the director Middens, a cat that owns the division branch. I
love it.
It's very good stuff.
And at $500,000 division brunch stretch goal gets unlocked, and we'll have a bunch of division brunch options available also too.
I may already be working on it. Those mimosas are very tempting.
Awesome. Josh, super fun to have you here as always. We've also got somebody who's been a huge part of the development process through playing the game, who's going to be playing with us, and that's Sherri. Sherri, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online?
Hi, my name is Sherri, and you can find me online at Auzumel, AUZUMEL. I am occasional co-host of the Gauntlet podcast, but mostly I play games. I have, luckily, in the last 2 years, going slowly on to 3, been playing games with Rae. Yeah. So, and it has been the most fabulous gaming time of my life. And I did play Apocalypse Keys early, mid, and late, and I am amazed at how beautiful and polished and perfect the text of this game is now. It delivers every word, every bit of punctuation. It just hits the heart. It is so good. Beautiful.
I'm having a blast playing because we play with different folks on a regular basis. We always use a couple tools here that we also use at my home table with lines, veils, and the X card, as well as an open door policy. We've already established those things. We talked about them in advance. We also reviewed them on the first one, but just to kind of quickly review our lines and veils for everybody. We've got a line against sexual assault, homophobia, transphobia, and fat phobia. We have a veil over real-world faces, negative plot device, violence against domesticated animals, and suicide. We can also use an X to pause the game at any point in time. They could type that, say that, let each other know we need to pause, identify an issue, move forward in a different direction, and then open door policy. You might see us need to get up, move around, talk to somebody off screen, eat, drink, do all the normal things that normal human beings do. And if you need to do those things and you're a normal human being, you should do them also. Take care of yourself. We're going to take care of ourselves also while we play. But that's everything we need to do in advance because we are on week 3. So I'm going to hand things over to Rae to take us back into the oldest house.
Yes, so we are currently playing out the mystery of the oldest house with a few tweaks here and there. Normally it's a complexity 8 mystery. We brought it down to 6 to make things exciting for our game here on +1 XP. So what I'd love us to do is to, before stream, we reviewed a little bit if there was anything we wanted to change about our safety stuff, about our characters. And before we get into it, I'd love to review the state of the mystery. And before we get into the nitty gritty, one of my favorite ways to do that is to say previously on Apocalypse Keys, right? So I'd love each of us to like just give a singular moment that we'd like to zoom in on for our characters, right? Thinking this is the, once again, high prestige TV show, right? With the ridiculously over the budget opening sequence. So if you want to play a little with that visually, you can do that too. Yeah, I kind of want to start with Nero. So Nero, what do we see previously on Apocalypse Keys for you?
Sure. So I think as a little break from the tension that this episode has been having, or this whole series, the previously moment that Nero was involved in focuses on the last key that he recovered, which also featured him stumbling, panicked, out of a random telephone booth as an obsidian skull, or skeleton, the whole skeleton, including the skull, reached out for him after he had just answered this mystery phone call, where we learned some information about a mysterious, the Oracle, and this apparent war between Oracle and Division, and the house is sort of the staging grounds, spy versus spy style, for this shadow war.
Ooh, excellent. Yeah, and I think there's a moment where we shift and we cut to very dramatically like this close-up of the oldest cat and its wide amber eyes, and we see their purple skin, those strange symbols from different cultures tattooed onto the skin, because the oldest cat appears to be a Sphinx cat, but they are an interdimensional entity, more ancient than time itself, capable of horrifying feats of reality, but also they like to be picked up by Nero and brought around. So because they are also a baby. But I think we also see a moment when in the last session, we saw the white room with the cassette tape next to the gun, the mysterious figure. We also see like last time we didn't quite get this far, but the camera shifts and moves. We get to see what Oracle stands for, because I did ask my partner to work in a background for Oracle. He also came up with the one for Division. So, so Oracle stands for Occult Reserve Agency for Control, Lockdown, and Extraction. So totally benign, not sinister at all. Okay, and then we cut to Dread Archivist Eliza Corbin. What do we see of you previously on Apocalypse Keys?
I think you see this moment of darkness, and then you hear Eliza Corbin's voice call out, "No!" And there's a moment of sort of weird, utter chaos, and then you hear a door sort of like slam open, if that makes any sense. It comes open so with so much force that the door hits the wall on the other side, and and from it comes the power of the twin moons, essentially a dark and dread force of gravity and void, and it essentially eats all of the Oracle workings that were using Vincent, her ghostly companion, against the group, until everything's gone except for Vincent, who is oddly enough alive seeming and in the flesh in this moment. Eliza does not question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think there's a moment where we see these twin moons, like we are in the oldest house, which is currently, as we established before, in the form of an oppressive looking government building, brutalist structure, reaching out towards the skies. But within division, that's what we established, mysteriously showing up. But we see those twin moons hanging above the oldest house, right? And there's a moment when the twin moons blink and we see this huge figure looming over the oldest house before it disappears. And that is when we cut to Finn. So Finn, what do we see of you?
When Finn's intro hits this time, there's a lot of like, there's a reason there's like a light sensitivity warning at the beginning of this episode. It's because of Finn's intro specifically, so far as we know. So there's like a lot of weird, like intermittent, like distorted sounds, like short like voops of sound with light going back and forth. And we see just like a couple of like spots of scenes, like him playing in the arcade before everything pauses. We see him unleashing the name of one of his siblings really briefly. And then we like slow down and we see him in the darkness last time, feeling trapped and helpless, kind of actualizing into a more powerful version of himself and convincing the oldest house that he's more powerful than it as he cuts through the darkness that surrounds them and spills them out onto the floor around him. And then we get a couple more vips and we just see like Vincent's face. And then as it cuts out, you just hear like, "Worship me," like whispered very softly after he was like leaning in towards Vincent.
Perfect. And then that's when we cut to Vincent, who was previously Eliza's partner, right? Assistant / friend / question mark. In the before times, back when Eliza was still alive, right? I think we also see flashes of, it's hard to make out, but that horrible incident where Eliza, you lost your body of flesh and blood, and so did Vincent, but you were determined to keep him alive in some fashion. And yet here he is now, fully alive, fully in love, fully worshiping Finn, right? And so, but yeah, okay. And
fine, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
100%. And then that is when we shift, the camera moves wildly, like in a very, what's that director's name? Sam Raimi kind of way, where the camera like brushes up against the walls, pushes in really close, zooming all over the floor. And we see how complex the oldest house is. Like parts of it look like abandoned catacombs, the water, the rituals from before, the paintings along the walls where we see Finn's siblings. We also see the hotel lobby, the strange control room with the computers, and we have a sense of scale, right, of the oldest house, how huge it is, but it is also a corrupted thing. The oldest house is caught up in this war between Division and Oracle. We know that Oracle is determined to take over Division's duties, is what Nero heard, right? So we're not quite sure what that entails. So this is a good time to review our mystery at hand. So we know that this is the 13th loop that you find yourselves in. You have no real memory of the previous 12 loops, but each time that you have tried to take back the oldest house for Division for yourselves, that remains to be seen, and insisting the oldest cat, those copies of you have remained in the house. So there used to be 12 copies of each of you. Nero has eaten about 7, so we have less. But still, that's still a lot of copies remaining, right? And I think that's when we see close-ups of each of you, and we can see like the corruption that is moving through these older versions of you, right? They are corrupted like the oldest houses. We see that same ichor under the skin shifting. Won't go into too much detail. Rae just gets excited about body horror. And there is a moment where we see that some of the Neros have started to like break down, because our dear Nero has been breaking some universal laws about what can be consumed and not consumed. And we see that this is happening with the other Neros. They have started to fall prey to each other, hunt each other. But there is like a few that remain strongest in the pack, right? And this is happening for our audience to see, not quite the characters, but Nero, you can sense this is happening, right? There's a part of you that understands, even while you are looking into the face of the oldest witch who stands in the hallway in the corridor, right? You have come here to find an ally. You know that the oldest witch is infected by the dream of the house, and you know that the source of this dream comes from Oracle. So it's all starting to come together. You also have the following facets in play, which is stolen secrets, which is presumably part of this war. We'll see how we interpret what stolen secrets mean as we like. We also have time restarting all of these loops. We have the Harbinger and the Door of Power. And the keys that we've picked up so far are, in the first one, we have a corpse of one of the tiers, one of Finn's siblings, and it was fed a painting in a strange ritual. There was this wretched creature that was desperate, on the verge of death, who enacted this ritual for this mysterious group, right? Our second key is, we know there is an underground facility of division that was experimenting on monsters. In particular, we saw the memory of this room where it was feeding Nero in order to make him strong enough to become an Omen class monster. And lastly, as Josh mentioned earlier, we have a phone booth built into an improbable place, a skeleton made of obsidian resting inside. We know that it's connected to the source of dreams. This feels important, maybe just to Rae, maybe just to me, in that the skeleton feels very soft and fleshy, even though it looks like it shouldn't be. It's very warm, very inviting, a skeleton. So those are our, I couldn't resist. Those are our 3 keys, right? And which is not bad, except we have quite a few ticks on the doomsday clock. We are 4 ticks in out of 6, my dears. We are getting close to doomsday. We are getting close to the Harbinger, reaching the ancient door of power first, taking the power that lies beyond the door, and claiming ascension. So, but you find yourselves in front of the oldest witch, right? I think in this moment, as players, do we have any ideas of who the Harbinger could be? So we've met a few people. Any theories we want to discuss before we like delve in? This is just to help like guide the session, possibly, right? I mean, I think it could be Vincent, but I am very cruel that way.
I was literally going to suggest Vincent as some sort of like sleeper cell Oracle agent type deal. Secretly the Harbinger doesn't even realize it.
I like Vincent more as like as a minion of the Harbinger. I think given some of what we saw last time, like we know that someone is manipulating this form of Vincent, but we don't know who it is.
That's true.
I mean, I'm almost curious. Like we've seen kind of these insidious things. Like I'm interested in like, what if it's someone at Division? Maybe an unmentioned NPC so far. Though I'm 100% sure that Finn is just thinking this is one of his siblings up to their old tricks. I don't, as a player, that's not convicting for me.
True. We do know that your siblings are being called to the house, but what if one of them is already here? Right. So we have a few possibilities. How about Eliza? What
do I think?
As Sherri as a player or Eliza as a character?
Yeah, I think that Eliza is actually more struck by, in fact, that sort of the collection of of the tiers of dream, and then all of the dream elements that are here, that there's definitely that. So she's trying to understand what aspect of dream it is that that is powering or fueling it. I don't have like a sense of which personality among those, though. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
it could be a dream creature, like what Nero is. That's a harbinger.
Exactly. And I think the thing is that they're able to manipulate the dreams that are closest to you. So that's why Vincent became a pawn. But that's
right. So I just wanted to let people watching know, or chat know, that this is one of the things we have where players can talk things out, only because I find in play, if we wait until the moment we're going to create the theory, it can be a lot as people like push in all of their ideas at the same time. So it's nice to talk things out early a little bit.
And chat, if you have ideas right now, it's a great time to
let us know. Hurt us with the truth. Okay, so but yeah, there are a few other questions that we could ask, but I'm most interested in the harbinger one. So, but another thing to keep in mind, I won't ask people to answer it right now unless you want to, is something to consider is, what is the ancient door of power, right? So the door doesn't necessarily have to be like an actual portal, right? It could be an object, it could be a moment, it could be a person, right? We just know that this door, whatever it is, contains power for the harbinger to access, right? So yeah, something to consider. Okay, so as we come back into the scene, right, we see the oldest witch reaching out a hand, the hair parting. They are backlit by this immense light that is coming from the room that they were stepping out of. I say step, but it's more like they're floating across the floor. You can see like their feet dangling, their bare feet, the toes brushing against the plush carpet. And I think there's a shot of the icebox that Nero had a moment with the other Nero, right? It just moves by itself, and then part of that black sludge, that ichor, comes out of the ice before we cut back to the oldest witch. And the oldest witch reaching out to Nero, speaking of, like, we understand that the oldest witch believes that Nero had consumed the dreams for them, right? But there's something, we know that they are worried about how Nero has given into the hunger. And so as they reach out towards you, Nero, what do? They obviously recognize you.
I think Nero would take a step back, maybe sort of like move the hand out of the way, like, no touchy, you know. We literally just, I mean, time loops, whatever, but to my recollection, this is the first time we met, so that's what counts. Appreciate at least a little introduction before you go with the whole ominous face touching stuff.
So as that happens, like, you see their hair parts, like there were faces that were like peering out of it earlier, and it's all been their face, except the face that peers out this time. Nero, what does your first victim, the one that you changed with your hunger and infected it with, what did they look like?
I think that, like, on the conscious level, I don't think Nero remembers the entire like facial features, but I think the eyes he recognizes immediately. Something about the color, kind of like maybe like a very ambery, almost flecked eye color that just sort of stares into Nero, that he starts to remember this whole first.
Ooh, yeah, I like that a lot. That is very cool. I think like the rest of the face is so shadowed, we can't quite make the features, but those eyes are so striking, and then it disappears back into the hair, right? And we don't see anything. And all of you can see that the witch is really struggling, right? And Eliza, what is clear to you is that the witch, it is painful for them to exist within this moment, right? And you have a sense that they're being torn apart, being pulled into different places, different times, right? And it's taking all of their willpower, all of their strength to remain here where they are. And Finn, you recognize exactly what the oldest witch is. The oldest witch might have been something else far back, because the oldest witch is as old as the oldest house. But the one in front of you, you can see that they have, aside from being infected by the dream of the oldest house, they have been infected by one of your siblings. You feel like this was possibly a failed, like, unification between two or more siblings, right? What are the signs that show, right, that the oldest witch is connected to you and your family somehow?
That's a great question. I think actually, like, as soon as you were describing the struggle of maintaining cohesiveness and time, I was like, that is 100% how Finn is. A lot of the times it was very much like mood for my character. But I actually think, like, the attempt has made it harder for them. Like, this has always been a struggle for them, but the attempt has definitely made it harder. And I think there is like the entire room, like, as they, and it's more notable when they draw close. There is a light vibration that, like, sets your teeth on edge as they move close. They've had a tone imparted to them that they can't get rid of, that's creating odd resonance with the space around them.
Ooh, I know you have a prepared list of names. Which sibling? What sound do we hear echoing throughout the corridors of this hotel?
There we go. Let's see. Let's get one that's not super enjoyable. Let's do the lava that cools and hisses. So we have this sense of, like, heat and crackling and hissing as the oldest witch tries to settle in this reality, like, tries to take form, but can't quite. And that attempt is causing these, like, subsonic pops and hisses that are uncomfortable for anybody who is not used to that kind of sound being an intrinsic part of their nature.
Ooh, very cool. Yes, I think when you pull away, rightfully setting your boundaries with this person you don't recognize, but there's a moment where they pull away their hand and it comes close to the wall, and the wallpaper starts to bubble from the heat, right? We can see things starting to warp, right? But the oldest witch is here. They are a possible ally, but they are also beset by the dreams and the infections of the oldest house. So they are possibly dangerous.
So the thing is we're all beset by dream in the oldest house. But essentially Nero and Finn are stuff of dream, but Eliza is not. She is that moment between life and death, and that is older and very, very strong. So I think what I'm going to do is try to make a connection with the oldest witch, so do the reveal my heart. And I think that I will say, you have seen many things, but the first thing that brought you power, I think perhaps it will help you. And I will sort of, like, open my heart, like, essentially kind of do that flood of, this is me, really, I'm a shade, I am between life and death, and I will reach out to her. So I guess that's a reveal my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Do we want to color it as you are revealing how you are, like, this moment between life and death, like you are displaying it clearly to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
This
Exactly.
vulnerable part of you. Ooh, right. I think there's a moment, just because I'm really seeing it, because we know that you're like this vapor shade, right? Person in this like Victorian suit. I think there's a moment where the vapor pours off of you and it starts to cool down the corridor. We see the heat that was coming from their hand, right, start to dissipate. But let's see how the roll goes. How many tokens do you want to spend on revealing your heart?
2.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and then I click this to roll, and I don't know what I get until I get over to the right thing.
Ooh, we have a disastrous success.
Ooh, a disastrous success, the best kind. Okay.
It is true. So we rolled a 13, right? So let me just read out what happens on a disastrous success. So reveal your heart. You have a moment of closeness, but also weakness. Ooh. Ask each other, how do I scare you at this moment? And each of you choose one. So do you want me to go first as the older switch, or do you want to go first?
I think I'll go first. And I think that the thing is that in that moment of life and death for Eliza Corbin, there is also this great, how do you say, love and desire to protect Vincent. That's just like the core of why she's there, and she can't hide it from the witch. And it's that sort of thing. This is life, death, and what do you say, love that can't be communicated. Does that make any sense? That terrible longing for something you don't have the courage to say.
Yeah, and I think and how that scares the oldest witch is they reach out for you instead. And there's a moment when they take your hands in their own, and all of the faces in their hair change into Vincent's face. And you can see the fear in their eyes, but there's also a sense of understanding. And the oldest witch says, your love is your strength, but it is also your undoing. This has happened again and again. Dread Carvist, Eliza Corbin, because you always choose love, even over truth. And when they say, like, their voice wavers and trembles, and the strength of that love is what scares them. So how does the oldest witch scare you in this moment? Oh, I'm going to say what I choose also. I'm going to say, they're so scared of you. I'm going to choose the first option. Tell you how fearful you become of them on a scale of 0 to 4. I'm going to say 4 tokens. So please bump up your tokens to 4. They are just, they know that you're going to, they're sort of insinuating, if you're going to destroy us for Vincent, you'll do it, right? Is what they're afraid of, right?
All right, that makes sense.
But yeah, so how are you? How does the oldest witch scare you right now?
How does the oldest witch scare me? The oldest witch scares me because she once was a creature of resolve and clarity, and she's caught in these dreams, and I see how easily it could happen to me. If that makes any sense. I can see the webs and the pull and all the thing on them, and, wishes granted and fears, delayed, and all of those things. I understand how she's been caught up in this, and I want to help her, but I'm also scared of the things that have bound her.
Yeah, and when you take a closer look at the dreams, you can tell how they have been crafted with surgical precision, right? And this is not a thing dreams are supposed to be. You spend enough time with both Finn and Nero that you've seen the nature of dreams, and they're often like shifting, changing, mutable things that react to people and react to things. But the one that grips the oldest witch is unchanging. It is a weapon that was crafted especially for them. And you realize that the faces and the hair are an expression of that dream.
Interesting.
Yeah. So which option do you want to choose? Do you want to so I think like the tokens one don't apply to the witch here. So you can gain a bond with what the darkness demands of you.
All right. I will do that.
Oh, yeah, we have to say like a dream that, because you were afraid of the dream overtaking you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to relate it to like one of the things that the darkness demands of you? You have two, which are, one is to kill death, and the other is to break the veil between the living and the dead.
Okay. Yeah. So and again, I had that thing of it all starts to seem the same, life and death. I think that in this thing, it's like, at least I think it's that life and death at least are true. And so there's that kind of thing where like there's so much power here that she feels like she might have to use both of them in order to wrest them out of there. Does that make any sense? That it is, so life and death can be a tool.
Ooh, very good. All right, so go ahead and take that bond.
Okay.
Yeah, I also realized, because I was very excited to get into it today, I forgot to check in what impulses we chose. So yeah, I was just so excited. Do we want to take a moment to like think about it? I'll check in after this interaction. Okay, cool. All right, so but you see the oldest witch visibly calms down, right? Once you have revealed your heart to them, they stop floating. They like actually, like their feet actually touch the ground, quotation mark, normally, as normal as can be in this oldest house, right? And the oldest cat saunters over, jumps into the arms of the oldest witch, smug as smug can be, as if the oldest cat did this entirely by themselves, right? Calm down the situation, claim the oldest witch as an ally. And there's a moment where the oldest cat reaches out with a paw and touches the heart of the oldest witch and says, "And so it would appear that thanks to my expertise," they say, winking at you, Eliza, "that we have at our disposal an ally, maybe needs a little help, but powerful nonetheless," they say. And that's when the cat turns to Near and Finn. Are either of you going to do anything about the dream that's infecting them, or do I have to do everything myself?
You just see Finn turn from a side conversation with Vincent that's been going on. It says, "Vincent, you're so funny. I'm sorry. What did you need?"
Eliza, are you feeling ignored or unimportant from Vincent in this moment? Or
what do you do when you're like, your darkness is just like taking up all the space?
Oh, this is
a good
up
to 4.
So no, actually it can go beyond that. This is a good opportunity
really?
to discuss what happens when you go beyond. So basically, when it comes to gaining darkness tokens, if you end with more than 5 after a move, you are forced to be torn between, right? Okay. Like the darkness within you overtakes. But if you take the tokens now, and
I can use them on a move.
Yes. So it won't, it won't trigger the moment you go over 5. It'll just trigger once you make a move, and you still have more than 5 tokens with you.
Let's talk about the fact that I'm at 7 and just did something spiteful or arrogant to a friend.
It only seems right and proper.
So good. How many tokens do you want to pick up, Eliza?
I took 2.
Okay.
Because it's more of the same. It's more like she's trying to keep her eyes on the oldest witch so that, she isn't taking the brunt of the visuals at least. But it's like,
And you see like Vincent, when Finn says that, just this bright, happy blush red. You can see like practically the steam coming out of his ears, and the worship in his eyes shines brighter than any star between 2 moons. I love you, Sherri. Okay, but Finn, you were saying.
What is this dream that you're talking about? And I'll take a closer look at the witch. What are we seeing again?
Right. So we know that the symptom of the stream that has been crafted as a weapon right? We're not sure what it's doing to them exactly, but we just know that it was created. And the symptom of it is these faces that keep popping out through the hair, right? Shifting and moving. We saw like it took on the face of the first victim that Nira had. We saw that it took on the face of Vincent, right? So it seems to like respond to people who are nearby. And we know that it's causing the oldest witch a lot of pain, right? But we're not exactly sure what the dream is and what it is forcing them to do or what it is doing to them.
Cool. I have a thought here, Nero. I mean, but if you have something you want to do,
no, go for it. What do you got?
I think I get very close to the oldest witch and I watch these faces kind of like start to pop up in and out. Vincent, Nero's first victim. I think I see, some siblings come forward, and as I like, I'm going to get like step in then very quickly and get intimately close to the oldest witch. Is there a way that she responds, or is she?
Ooh, yeah. When you step closer, that sound that came from one of your siblings, you can hear it resonate, like it's reaching out to you. Like a magnet, like it's trying to pull you in. It wants to reunite with you, right?
And I am, I'm going to lean in and I'm going to, whisper gently into the witch's ear, which I think, in the camera, we see another small ear like pop up behind this one as we're saying it. Let this dream die. And then I just give her like a kiss on her neck. But I want to unleash the darkness and I want to poison this dream to kill it.
Oh, yes. Yes. Let's do it. Beautiful. So how many tokens are we going to see? You have quite a few, so you can go all the way to 3.
It's like, whoops. I did a lot of horrible things in the last little bit. We'll say that was the result of me going over. I'm going to spend 3 as soon as I can figure out where I'm going on the sheet. I want to make these things small. There we go. Unleash the dark. I'm going to let people see how it works also too. Let me get this up on the screen because we're using this great Roll20 implementation, which again, I don't say lightly. Like I'm not a huge fan of Roll20 generally. This implementation that Fred did is tremendous. I'm very excited about it. So we're going to unleash the dark. We're going to spend 3 because my spending 2 has not gotten me anywhere. And spending 3 always seems like the worst choice. And now I'm going to do it and we're going to regret it afterwards. Here we go.
We'll see.
Still a 6. And so
what?
You want to spend a bond?
I do. Let's see. I'm going to spend a bond, and the bond will move it up 1, correct?
That is correct. And we want to try to hit an 8 because 8 to 10 is a sweet spot.
So spending 1 bond doesn't do much for me. Let's see if I want to spend 2. Eliza longs for I think I'm going to spend both another one of my bonds with Eliza, and I'm going to spend a bond with the darkness, which
if
is
you spend a bond with me and you ask for my advice, and you follow it, you can choose some nice little bennies.
We'll spend the one with you. I'm trying to think of narratively what it looks like to ask for your advice in this moment. Maybe this is less a verbal thing. Maybe this is me turning, like, as I lean into the oldest witch, and I make eye contact with you, which is a very, very, very rare thing for me to do to directly acknowledge your existence. And I kind of just raise an eyebrow as if to imply, what do you think? I think that's the most narratively satisfying way to ask for your help. But as a player, I'm 100% asking for your help.
Yeah, I think there's that thing of that when you lean into the witch and you give her that kiss on her neck, I sort of like mirror what you've done, and I lean in, and whereas you are sort of like speaking to the dream, I'm speaking to the death. And actually you kind of see this sword almost kind of form in the witch's hand, or no, a dagger, a nasty little dagger of just pure black death.
I love it. What is that? What's the effect on the move for that?
You may choose to clear a condition. You can gain a bond, or I can gain a bond on you, or you can change a detail or context about one of the keys that we have out there.
Yeah.
I'm actually just going to take a bond back with you, but I also think it kind of is shifting our bond. Part of me wants to clear a condition, but I also like this angry version of Finn that's arrived on the scene now. And I'm going to spend one with I'm going to spend my other bond with the darkness to get it up to an 8 also too.
I
okay.
just have to clarify. It's actually Eliza who picks up that bond with you.
Oh, Eliza picks up a bond with me. Excellent. That's fine. So Eliza's going to pick up a bond with me. I'm going to spend one with what the darkness demands of me as well.
Perfect.
Which will get us to an 8.
It does. It does get you to an 8, right?
Yeah.
And so do you take that dagger that Eliza was offering?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. All right. So which means when you unleash the dark on an 8 to 10, right? You get to choose 2. What would you like to choose? I assume you want to get past their defenses and inflict a condition in order to destroy.
Yes. So I want to destroy this dream. And gosh, part of me just wants to confuse them for a time. But
you could say that's Oracle, right? Like they lose track of the 3 of you.
Ooh, I like that. Like this, the destruction of this like infected dream, kind of hides us from them, for a moment. As well.
I'll say like until the next scene, Oracle loses track. Though I will say, if you don't choose avoid reprisal, harm, or cost, I'll probably ask you to mark a condition or something similar.
Yeah, that's okay. I think we're gonna confuse Oracle for a little while as far as what is going on, and so.
Oh, nice. What does it look like when you use the dagger on the oldest witch?
It's I don't think we see this happen on the oldest witch. I think what we actually see is like this face, like this ear that was right there. Like we see it get bigger and bigger and actually kind of grow into like almost leach out as this alternate form of this dream that this infected dream. It's this dark kind of Icarus version of the oldest witch. And it's obvious that even from my kiss, this thing is starting to deteriorate and die as the soul venom that I've infected it with starts to kind of just melt its form. And it's kind of exposing this pulsing purple heart that I take that dagger and just plunge it into. I think we see like maybe almost an eruption at that point in time. Like we see this hissing and steam and this like purple energy kind of pulse out. And that like it disrupts the room around us, which actually kind of lets it and the distemporality of the witch like settle in for a moment and kind of blocks us off. But also it's a giant purple pulse of infected dream energy. So, GM, have fun with that. And so, I think that's what we're gonna do.
Perfect. And at that exact moment where everything explodes, right? We see that purple energy like reaching outwards through the corridors. You see it like reach out past all of the bellboys that had helped you earlier, right? And it grips one of them in particular. And we see the bellboy, and all of them were faceless before this moment, but one of them starts to gain a face, and it looks like that wretched creature that was part of that ritual earlier. And it lets out a strangled voice, and it says, "No, master, you promised to protect me." And then the bellboy like crumples over and starts to disintegrate and deteriorate as the destruction of the dream overtakes him completely. And we cut to, for a moment, the cassette tape shattering in that pure white room. And we see a hand slam into the desk and say, "We've lost the feed. Get it back. We have to keep eyes on them." And you can hear the frustration in their voice. So as characters, you don't quite know what's going on. But Finn, it just feels very satisfying. You just know that you fucked up someone's day, right? Like you can,
what I'm here
just
for.
sense that. Yeah. It's a great moment for you. So how many darkness tokens do you have left after spending those 3?
So I have 4 now.
Perfect. This is how we power game Apocalypse Keys. Excellent. Okay, perfect. So when that happens, the oldest witch like steadies themselves, right? You can see like it takes a moment for them to get used to not having the dream infect them, and they shake their head and they seem to like come to, and they look at the 3 of you, and with sharp clarity they say, "This is the 13th loop. This is our chance. This is what we've been building towards." And the oldest cat says, "Of course, yes." And you can tell the oldest cat is like, "I'm going to pretend I understood all that. And I didn't forget everything that we've been doing up to this point." And the oldest witch says, "We have just enough time. We can still do it if we're," and they shake their head for a moment. "Yes, we have to get to the director's office." And that's when they turn to Nero and they say, "Your hunger will take us there. You want the door, don't you?"
Sort of look at Eliza and Finn. Like, I don't not want it.
What a little shit. Okay.
In this interaction, can I make a poll to grasp at keys?
Of course you can.
This moment felt like super significant. So I'm probably gonna spend, I always spend 2.
I was like, someone needs to grasp for keys right now, and it should not be my character. So
yeah. And I think so. Yeah, I think I will use 2 because that's what I've been doing, and it's been mediocre at least. So.
And you're trying to like observe, right? Like, as you can see,
I'm like catching everything that's going on here.
Perfect.
There's a whole, it's the 13th, everything's snapped, the cat's faking it, Nero's acting weird. We've just been through a really strange moment that doesn't seem to follow. So yeah, I think that now is the time. So, oh, and then add 2 to whatever the result was. So that's a 6.
That's a 6, and then we add 2. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's it's a 4. Didn't I just roll 4?
Yes, 5, 6.
So it's a 6. So I have to. Oh, can you spend bonds?
You can. You can, and you've been gaining these bonds.
I know.
You do have 2 to spend.
I know.
Oh, okay. But I will say, with grasping keys, you can instead choose to just mark ruin, and you'll still get the key anyway. It's just that
then I'll have to like open the then I'll be ruin's door. So yeah, no, I will be the harbinger. It'll turn out. It's the harbinger, it's me.
It could be.
Okay.
It's true. It's true.
So, and I think in that moment I'll spend one of my bonds with Finn and the other one with Nero, because in a lot of ways they both are the clues that I'm looking for here. is like what's happening, because we have been looping. So there's like some sort of information that's circulating back through this. So that gives me an 8.
Do we want to like clarify this flashback, this bond spending a little bit? How about in this moment, you go back to one of those previous loops, right? And the three of you are working together on something. Right. So what is it that this Nero and this Finn, like this moment of closeness that the three of you had in one of the previous loops, what does it look like?
Oh, I think that it's the moment when we tried to free the witch. And in fact, like it goes disastrously wrong. Like the dream that has a hold of her starts pulling her apart. And there's that moment where we sort of all leap in to try to save her. And you do the bodyguard, but we don't. We can't save her. And we all three of us sort of are right there with our, like trying to hold on physically even. And it just all comes apart on all of us. And we're standing there in the room, the same room, in the position pretty much that we are right now, going with, the witch gone in between us, and all of us covered with the ichor that is in those corrupted things now.
Oh, perfect. I like that. Okay, so on an 8 to 10, you were able to grasp the key. And so let's see, I'm once again referencing my lovely list of keys here. You find that the oldest witch doesn't realize that they're doing it. It's like as if their hand is moving on their own, right? Even as they're talking to Nira and asking Nira to lead them, the group of you, right, to the door. And I'm trying to resist too much body horror here. Let's just say there's a sound. You realize there's something emerging from within the oldest witch's body. I won't be any more specific than that. And they place a gun in your hand. Right. But it's not any ordinary gun. For the rest of us who are watching from the audience, we recognize it to be the same gun that was next to the cassette tape that went missing when that Harbinger got pissed off. And you know that the moment you hold it in your hands, that this is known as the service weapon. It changes form depending on whoever wields it. So it is a gun because you want it to be a gun, but you can sense that it can become a mythic hammer, a holy sword, a whip of chains, whatever it needs to be. But Eliza Corbin, in your hands, you want it to be a gun.
I do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, so that is your clue. And you realize the significance of that particular clue and what's going on in this moment is that the oldest witch is reclaiming their power, right? That was taken from them. And so whatever this dream was doing, it was trying to cut them off from the source of power of the oldest house, what Oracle is trying to claim, what the oldest cat has been cut off from, but it can't remember, right? And so the oldest witch is able to just casually give you this weapon because they are slowly regaining that power.
Their power. Okay. And all right. That sounds lovely. So
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Put it in the uncovered clues thing.
Exactly.
I can't type in there. So that sounds awesome. And you said it's called the service weapon. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Does it appear to be essentially the issued weapon that a standard division agent is given?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, when they give it to you, they say, you're given this weapon and you were never meant to use it and you will never have to use it. Except when they're saying it, you can tell there's subtitles of people usually don't survive long in the division. We're going to try to protect you as best as we can, but it's probably hopeless. It's kind of the vibe you're getting. But yeah, so it does take on the form of that weapon. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All right.
It bears the weight of duty somehow.
All right. That's awesome.
And so and when you take the weapon, the oldest witch like reaches out and like holds your hand, right? That's holding the weapon, like really they're communicating silently to you. And once again, this is going on while they're like focused on, on Nero, but they're communicating to you like their belief in you, right? They know that you're dangerous and you're very scary and that you're willing to kill any of them with this weapon for Vincent's sake, but they also still want to believe in you, right? So
yeah, I think it's a right back at you moment since this is the oldest witch.
Accurate. Okay, so but Nero, what do you do? Like you're not hiding your desire for the door. The witch is convinced that you can lead us to where the ancient door is.
Yeah, so I think one, Nero allows himself to focus on that hunger, right? For this big, powerful, juicy door that clearly I should not really be devouring. So perhaps I'm feeling a yearning for what I cannot have.
Oh, delicious. How many tokens are you going to pick up for that?
I think just 2. And then I want to focus on that hunger and potentially follow it. So I'm thinking either, depending on how we want to roll through this scene, whether that's like unleashing my darkness here or potentially grasping for keys myself, since I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I'm investigating,
you are,
where this door might be. So
I think that's completely.
We're just trying to get caught up.
yeah, because we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Keys. So yeah, I think grasping for keys totally makes sense, right? Cool. Using your hunger to do so.
Everything we do from now on needs to be grasping for keys.
Not necessarily, but yes, we are evening the odds. As what is it? Wasn't there a game? Oh my gosh, I think of Batman where you press X to even the odds to like jump into the. It's like Batman, Arkham City, I think. Anyway, okay. So yeah.
I've got 3 tokens. I'm gonna go ahead and spend 2, I think. That's a 7. You know what? I don't have any bonds to play with, so I will go ahead and mark ruin.
Gasp. Okay, so when we mark ruin, delicious. Okay, yeah, because Nero spent all those bonds to better listen to the cat last time. So you find more than you were ready for. You may choose to mark ruin, which you did, to uncover a key, but in doing so, I will reveal how you come closer to become harbinger. Feels very apt in this moment, if we're going to be honest.
It feels appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you like lean into the hunger, there's a moment when the corridor starts to shift and change. It looks more like that first corridor that you walk down with all those paintings, right? It starts to become dark and more narrow. The carpet shifts and changes. And then these paintings start to form from the walls like growths, right? You can hear the wood move like flesh as these paintings come into being. And each of them look like the victims that you've consumed over the many, many, many years. And these paintings reach out into infinity, my dear Nero. There are so many you have feasted upon. And one by one, each of these victims of yours start to change and look like you, right? And one of your other yous steps out of the painting and says, "This way," and bows deeply, but very ironically, like it's very condescending a bow.
Yeah.
And like crooks a finger. You realize that no one else can see this other Nero.
I'm just saying this mostly as a trick, but does the mirror Nero acting petty count for getting darkness tones?
Oh yes,
No, I'm kidding. I wasn't the one doing it. It shouldn't count. It's funny though.
I was gonna say if it counts, I'll take your tokens, but you know.
No. I mean, I think Nero doesn't really like, or no, I think he does sort of play into it a little bit. Like this is some ironic pomp and circumstance. He's allowing the arrogance to sort of swell here. I think might look a little particularly odd to Finn and Eliza, who cannot see this mirror Nero, was as he like returns a bow or something, very, very cheekily. And then I think, you know, says, all right, this way.
Okay. And so one second. The actual key that you're able to pick up is, you notice one of the paintings, instead of like being one of your victims and taking on your form, instead it shows an abandoned bunker full of shadows, right? And these shadows are twisted and shifting and moving, and they're moving closer and closer, right? And they reach like close to the shadow. One of the other Neros steps out and winks at you with a, I'll take care of it, and moves into that painting to do whatever it is that Nero will do to like poor wretched creatures. But I'm gonna put that down as our key. Let me just, a painting, but one of the Neros steps in and consumes the shadows. Okay. And so once that happens, you realize that the corridor now changes to look more like that bunker. This feels like Division for a moment. It feels reminiscent of that secret underground facility, but it's like staring at Division through a mirror, and you realize instead that this is a bunker in Oracle's like headquarters instead, right? And so the oldest house has consumed an aspect of Oracle, or did Oracle feed it? We're not quite sure yet, right? But we're getting closer and closer to where the door is. You can sense your hunger sharpening, and like the other Nero comes very close to you and says, there'll be a moment where you can't control it. So which one are we going to eat first? The poor half-dead thing or the half-god thing?
I think without really turning to look at this alternate Nero and answering the question, sort of like, I think more of almost like snapping his fingers and he's going to consume that Nero, right? To sort of like very, very like almost instantaneously like unravel the dream stuff, right? And eat it.
Yeah, you paid for, I know you marked your rune, right. So I'm gonna allow it. We bring you closer to, I'll say you can do that without having to roll if you mark rune for me.
Yeah.
And so as that Nero unravels and feeds you, right, you feel the dream that was once part of it. There's a part of you that realizes each time you feed on these Neros, it is reminiscent. It is somewhat related to the same way that Finn's siblings, when they unite with each other, there's something similar about it. Probably, there's a part of you that's almost like, is this a good? Not gonna think about it. Like, just a little, but it feels like someone else's thoughts that are happening in your thoughts when that happens.
What's wrong with being a little indulgent?
Yeah, you are here to indulge, my dear. So, but yeah, and I think as the three of you make your way, the oldest witch and the oldest cat. Oh my gosh, here we go again. It's a typical Rae game where like we have our PCs and all these NPCs in tow. I played Trophy Gold once and we ended up with like 6 NPCs in tow, going from room to room.
That's good. Tons of backup characters in case something happens to.
It's true. Though
Hunter.
Leandro's character did end up marrying the skeleton that we picked up from one of the early rooms. But anyway, so, but when this happens, that is when Finn, one of your siblings, you can sense that they're here. Their sound reaches you before anything else. Which sibling is this?
Do we have any sense of this sibling's temperament before I give you a name?
Ooh, yeah, sure. There is a sense like as their power comes closer, right? The bunker starts to come, like there's this strange whistling wind for a moment. We don't know, like it's not necessarily connected to the sound that they are, but there's this whistling sound. There's this sense of sharpness, right? And we hear a voice that comes through and says, why are you still spending your time with these weaklings, working as like a servant to division, so beneath you? And it really like screams of like older sibling that can always do better no matter what and is incredibly judgmental.
This is sunbeams scatter across the ice of a void.
So good. Delicious.
We just call them Sunny.
Perfect. Right. And so there's this moment where you can feel the warmth across your skin, but every time the warmth moves away, it is overwhelmed by the cold of the void that is left in its wake. Right. And so when your sibling steps in, they look so similar to you, right? With similar features, but the hair is quite long, almost reaches the floor almost. And you can see like they brush off their shoulders some of that ichor, right? You can tell that they probably fought an infiltrator on the way here. And they reach out their arms, and the oldest cat very calmly just jumps into their arms, right? And looks at you with wide amber eyes. And Sunny says, I think I'll take over from here. And looks at you, Finn.
Did you take over before? Or is this your first time?
And they smile. So you know this much at least in this loop. Nice to see you're not as slow as last time. And they say, no, I did not take over last time. And that was my mistake. I should have taken responsibility. And there's a way that they say it that you really know that what they mean is you should have done better. And I just don't trust you this time. So I'm going to take over now.
I mean, you are the oldest sibling. So if you feel like your seconds of extended experience beyond ours matters, then by all means, go ahead.
Of course, I am the first tear to fall, and within those moments, eternities unfolded for me. And they're going to take the oldest cat. We don't know what they really mean by taking over, but they're content to leave the oldest witch to you and content to go along their way, but they want to take the cat with them. And the cat is like, none of that smugness is on their face.
Do they look like they're in control of what they're doing?
It's more like there's a loss of self that happens in the presence of Sunny.
Ooh.
So there's this moment where we don't know if Sunny is really helpful, just overbearing, possibly something else.
I am gonna use as Sunny goes to walk off. Like, I'm trying to think through the different permutations of what Finn is trying to think through the different permutations of what he thinks would have happened in previous loops based on what they know, if they had encountered Sunny or not. And I am going to, I think, use my holy symbol arsenal.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is a good use of that here. Dang.
Yeah. So holy symbol arsenal, when you dampen your powers of darkness. So I have access to a large arsenal of different holy items that have been collected by division agents over time. And I show resonance with them. Some of them like me, some of them don't like me. When I dampen my powers of darkness in order to use the holy symbol artifact, tell the keeper how much you open yourself to the divine energies of the arsenal on a scale of 1 to 3. I think this is going to be a 3, whatever it is, because I'm whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be doing it to my older sibling. The keeper describes a divine vision and its effects with intensity equal to your divine vulnerability. Roll and add your level of divine vulnerability. Yeah.
Is this symbol? So I want to ask,
Yeah.
right? We've established that each of your siblings has an artifact that is tied to their power, right? Do we want to say like the siblings that did not survive per se, but their artifacts are now part of this holy symbol arsenal?
I think there's certainly a couple in there, like without a doubt, because I think a lot of the siblings still have theirs.
Right.
And so I do kind of narratively love like Sunny lost their artifact, like, and this is it. And so I think
Let's do it.
I think, it's looked like different things over time, but it's always taken the symbol of a glove, and so I think I put, like, as they turn and start to walk away with the cat, like I slide my hand into this like what looks like pale white leather glove, and I snap my fingers.
So good. This is very good. Juicy. All right. So so you said that it was a vulnerability of how much again?
That makes 3. We're gonna go all in.
Sure. I think so. There's a moment where that vision you have is when Sunny was like first formed, when that tear first started to fall, right? And we see a glimpse of what killed this god, right? And we see that there is this dagger that looks so much like the dagger that Eliza created for Nero. And we see a close-up of these lips. It's so much like when you were whispering to the oldest witch. And this voice says, "Understand, my love, that with your death, we come closer to the true end of things. We will no longer have to be held in this wretched cycle of reincarnation, of never-ending life. We can finally reach the end of the universe together. And you, what was once Sunny, what was once God, what was once dream, says, know that even as you betray me, I love you above all else. I'm sorry that when I die, you will have to become death." And so the vision that you receive is when death first formed, the death that Eliza knows. But we don't quite see their real face.
Love it. All right.
Okay, so let's see that roll.
Ha ha! It's an 8.
Oh, so perfect. That's sweet spot. Oh my gosh. Because the holy symbol arsenal is very different between the 8 to 10. It's like a different set of things you can do.
Yeah.
Entirely. So excellent. Okay, so we've hit that sweet spot. and you get to choose 3 options because you were vulnerable by that much.
Yeah, the darkness and divine
nice.
energies synchronize to activate the hem of righteousness. Choose a number of actions equal to my divine vulnerability. 3. In addition, gain one bond with the divine entity that aids me, which in this case is my sibling that I am.
Yes, that's true.
Currently bind. We're gonna bind the target and render them helpless for now. We are going to. Did we decide that we thought the cat didn't seem quite in its own faculties? We're gonna protect. We're gonna protect a Mindharder's soul from possession or attack. And I'm also gonna create a temporary divine weapon and gift it to the worthy. I think like as I snap, all of a sudden, like there is, it like the glove itself like changes, and we see these kind of this long spiked kind of forked handle come out of the end of it, and I'm gonna give it to why can't I think of it? Nero.
I think there's a moment where the audience think it's gonna be Eliza, like we're all like, oh, is this it?
Oh no, like and 100% like I turn and I like look like there is a moment of like I'm panning towards Eliza, and then we pan past towards Nero. And so
Eliza, are you feeling important or unimportant? Unimportant or ignored? There you go.
And I do think though though maybe not one of my siblings, you're certainly could at least call us cousins. I'm super curious. How does this spiked gauntlet change when Nero puts it on? Because it's gotta respond to Nero putting it on in some way, shape, or form.
Definitely. So I'm imagining this sort of big, heavy, gleaming spiked gauntlet, you know, the sort of high Gothic divine fantasy we're going on here. And I think when Nero takes it, a little like, oh, okay, not bad, and puts it on. And I think it becomes much more form-fitting, and instead of this maybe like gleaming gold, shimmering metal, it's kind of looks like this shifting like nebula dream stuff is sort of floating across it. So it's still gaudy and flashy, but in a much more Nero way.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it. I think we see like Sunny just frozen except for their eyes. Like whatever it looks like for a sound wave to suddenly be encapsulated, we get that sense from them of this is just almost that they have become silent, except for their eyes kind of wildly probing around. I think as I walk up and like move his arms a little bit so the cat can easily extricate itself, I just say, I might have believed you, but there's no way that the oldest sibling would have ever let the youngest one lead the way in the past.
Ah, very good. Excellent. And then that's when their eyes start to wildly shift back and forth, and they move their neck and it cracks in this unnatural way. And then that's when you see there's this like bright red thread that moves all along the neck, down the body, right? These stitches. And you, Finn, you've been working with Division long enough, you recognize this creature, right? And it starts to come together that this was the same creature that was part of that ritual that stole that painting of one of your siblings. But you realize who they are. Like you've come across them before, if not directly, at least you've seen the Division records about it. They are the needle and thread, right? So they used to be a terrifying harbinger, but decades ago they were struck down by Division, right? And so all that remains of them is twisted flesh stitched together, held by bright red string, made from the sinew and blood of their victims, right? And you realize that they've been taking bits and pieces of your siblings and trying to stitch it together. And they've been taking bits and pieces of dreams of Sunny
Okay.
and putting them together, right? And so when they start to come undone, you can see like, we're not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to resist. But but the face starts to split along those seams that suddenly are no longer invisible, right? And you see like they were trying to reach out towards the cat, and this claw like breaks forth from the hand. But right, the cat is protected from any form of possession or attack. So, but you can see like there was a moment where before the holy symbol like came into like activated, where the oldest cat, like these stitches started to grow along their skin, and you realize like the needle and thread was trying to take the oldest cat and feed on it, right? And like take on more aspects of its power. And so it's the needle and thread is growing desperate. It tears itself open, bursting at the seams, right? Growing larger and larger, and this huge sound, this corruption of the sound of a sunbeam on the icy void, right? Just, it can't hold the sound together properly, and it's starting to tear apart this tunnel towards the bunker. What do the three of you do? Shit is about to get down. But we have someone who has a very fancy gauntlet. I don't know, I'm just saying, like, you know, a divine weapon. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe time to do something with this needle and thread creature using this new divine gauntlet I was just gifted. I think like wielding the power that is in the gauntlet primarily, so which feels a lot of Finn's divine powers, but you know, some of this, some of Nero's energies are woven in there since he's the wielder of this now. So perhaps this would be unleashing my darkness.
Sounds right.
Okay. I had picked up a couple of tokens because I felt like I was playing into some darkness pettiness.
Ooh, nice.
So I'm at 3 again. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 and roll to unleash the dark. That's a 9.
Nice. I'm not going to say anything. GMs are not allowed to talk about rolls. I'm very superstitious. But right. So on a 9, it is a perfect hit when you unleash the dark, right? And so what does it look like when you come in with this gauntlet, right? Unleashing the dark upon this wretched creature that used to be terrible harbinger, now just this, right?
Mm-hmm. So Nero has his own way of unmaking something when he feeds on it, and you know, with this needle and the thread, sort of whole imagery we have going on here. I think that the divine energy in the gauntlet is sort of bursting out and augmenting that. So it's almost like Nero's able to pull on a piece as if you were about to spin it out into dream stuff to eat it. But instead of feeding off of it, that gleaming, bright, divine energy courses through this thread. And it's, you know, it's like undoing a knit sweater or something. I think that this needle and thread creature further starts to just kind of like become undone little by little, piece by piece, as the power of the gauntlet surges through it, mixed in with Nero's own darkness.
Oh, I like that so much. That is so cool. All right. And so you get to choose 2 options because you wield the darkness with control and ease. What do you choose?
Yeah. I think definitely get past their defenses, inflicting a condition, because we are trying to remove this beast from our presence. And I think I'm gonna say maybe get what you want from them, like, because I think Nero's looking for further connections between the needle and thread monster and Oracle and all of that.
Very good. So this may mean that you're going to take a condition. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say, like, as it starts to unravel and you get close to that information, you see them like spooling apart, unable to like hold themselves together, right? You realize it's through just this like horrible aching desire to like regain what power it can. But through that moment, that is when you realize that the needle and thread is bound to both oracle and division. You can sense these strings, and you can sense these strings were not put in place by the needle and thread, but by something else. You get flashes of like that same underground facility with those harbingers like floating, and you realize that the harbinger that this once was fed to you all that time ago. And this is all that's left of it. And so what happens now is when this realization comes to you, these like tiny little eyes through what remains of the flesh and thread, like focus on you, and it uses like the last of its strength to like pull at you, and it starts to unravel a part of you. It is binding your fate to another monster. Who is it binding you to?
I think in this situation, it makes sense for it to be Finn. Like, one, the already somewhat existing kinship there, and also I was using the gauntlet gifted to me by Finn to do this to the needle and thread monster. So someone's like following back that sort of sympathetic trail that already existed.
And then that's when the needle and thread says, instead of remaking the old god, we will make a new one together, my dear sibling. They say, looking straight at you. Yeah, this is so gross. Even I'm like creeped out. But it says that, and that's when it pulls at its own strings, right? And it tears away, and it reveals your face right underneath it. And you can sense like a part of your hunger is like reaching into them. Are you going to pull at it? Like make sure you can't infect them with your hunger, or do you think that they won't be able to contain it? Because
I mean,
they could possibly be trying to destroy themselves. Yeah.
This husk of a thing can't handle my hunger. It would devour itself.
Yeah. How does this make you feel? I think we should mark a condition.
So see, I've got raging, lonely, lustful, but also gluttonous, one of my hunger conditions. I think I'm going to mark off the gluttonous one. I think all of this is just sort of further reminding Nero of his ever constant and growing hunger, right? And he's been feeding all these copies of himself and taking all these opportunities. So I think like the hunger pangs, so to speak, are growing ever larger.
Ooh, amazing. And so as that happens, like you allow the hunger to take over, and there's a moment when the needle and thread looks exultant, like it's gotten exactly what it wants, but then its eyes start to panic, and it's got it exactly what it wants, right? As the hunger starts to just completely consume it from the inside, it looks like an implosion is going to happen. I'm looking back at the options Finn shows for our holy symbol arsenal, just so that I'm sure. Let's see. Ooh, but they're bound and helpless in this moment, right? So which means the implosion is not going to like move that far, but I'm going to say, like, if you don't want to get caught up in it, you're going to have to move quickly.
We got to hoof it.
Right. And you see the oldest cat like look at you, Nero, and it goes like, you're going to pick me up, right? I can't run, right?
Rolling my eyes for the camera, I will pick up the cat kind of under one arm.
There's a moment where like the paws go like, no, over your shoulder. Okay, so the three of you like start moving quickly. That's when, but you see like Vincent and the oldest witch have like you realize like Vincent was like protecting the oldest witch without realizing it. And the oldest witch was kind of going along with it, just being very nice to him. Like, yes, please protect me. Half dead human. Very sweet of you. The two of them are already ahead. And as all of you move away, you can see this poor, wretched creature is moving, desperate, and you can hear echoing through the bunker, "Masters, you promised me. You promised that you would not again. I will, no matter how many times, I will reform myself, no matter how many times, no matter what is," and just horrible silence, only the sound of hunger left behind. And I think this is where we're going to take our break.
Sweet. Awesome. We're going to take a short little break. We will be back in just a few minutes to keep on playing in the oldest house for our Apocalypse Keys multi-part actual play series. We are live again, back in the oldest house in our Apocalypse Keys actual play series, where we just escaped, at least for now, a horrible creature called the Needle. It's Needle and Thread. Is that what it's called, Rae?
The Needle and Thread, right?
Rae dropped me over some art, so this is what Needle and Thread looks like. You know, when it's not unraveling, ripping off its face, or popping out of one of my siblings. This is what Needle and Thread looks like. Who's the art by?
This is by Adrian Stone of Spire fame, right? So who also did the iconic art for Apocalypse Keys for each of the playbooks, basically.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
This is people's first glimpse at this art. Is that correct? Or is that...
Yeah. So one of the juicy things about Apocalypse Keys is that it comes with some pre-generated harbingers and factions, and there's art for each one.
Love it.
Right. So yeah. So this is the I just wanted to have people have the chance to see like one of the harbingers dropped in. Right. So
love it.
But yeah, possible harbingers, as it were. Okay. So yeah, I just love what Adrian Stone did with this. It just looks so good. Just very appropriately creepy. Excellent. Okay. So I realized I forgot to double check what everybody's impulses were. I kept telling myself I'm going to go back, and I kept getting carried away with the story, which is probably a good sign. We're telling a great story together. But I just want to check in. What is everyone's impulse that they chose for their character this session?
I have, did you taunt or seduce those who would seek to destroy you?
I feel like maybe we may have already hit it.
I did choose this at the beginning of the session. I did not go back and do it right after I just taunted or seduced anyone.
So good.
All right.
No, we could really see it like guiding play. So that is very good.
Yep.
That is the hope. This is a nice little thing from, that I saw in the Between and Brindlewood Bay that I really liked. It's very cool for role playing. How about so Sherri, what did you choose for Eliza for?
I chose to find something or someone worth living for. So
yes.
yes.
So sad that I wrote that.
I know
So-
you always write the saddest things that then I have to play through.
Excellent. And then Josh, what did you choose for Nero?
I decided to stick with the same one I did last time, which is, did you infect another monster with hunger or desire?
Okay, so that's why our poor needle and thread went through it. So and we did not hold back. Excellent. Okay.
When you feel sorry for a harbinger. Yeah, there you go.
I know.
He only wanted to end the world a little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay, so but back to the group, right? We see like close-ups of each of you as you are running through the bunker. There are moments where water appears like by the ankles, right? Like the house, the bunker believes the water should be there, and then suddenly it's not there, back and forth. You were reminded of how earlier in the oldest house, in this current, the 13th, right, loop, all three of you were drowning and the water was like searching for something, right? And you can see the oldest witch reach down and touch the waters, right? And you can tell there's something going on between the witch and the water, like the witch is trying to feed whatever information the water is looking for to keep it at bay, right? Vincent is right next to you, Finn, and there is this, you can recognize that Vincent is like looking out for any possible danger. This is very much Vincent is like ready to die for you just to make sure you don't get hurt in any way whatsoever. And when that thought crosses your mind, that's when you see that the walls of the bunker, right, start to shift and move. And you can sense that the infiltrators are on their way. And Vincent says, "You're so close. You're getting closer to the door. I can stay here, my lord. Buy you time." What do you do?
I'm far more interested in how Eliza reacts to this than I am how Finn does right now.
I think she has been like running, and we've done that pause where we're trying to understand what's going on with the witch, and she sort of hears that, and you see her sort of turn and look at you, Finn, like she wants you to understand that you're supposed to do something, but of course your chances of understanding what that is are very small, so you may take it as you wish. And I think that she actually will run back towards the witch.
Right. And so you see the witch is like moving. Every time the oldest witch reaches out to the water, like their skin shifts and changes a little bit, right? So, but before we get into any more detail, like, so Finn, you see like Eliza gave you that look, whether or not Finn is able to understand in this moment what that is, but you look into Vincent's face and oh, that faith, that worship on his face.
Yeah, I can only imagine that what she wants Vincent back in his original form, and that was dead. So as far as Finn knows, like this is explicit permission to have Vincent stay behind and die. So
I'm so glad I was muted. I barked out that laugh so hard.
Yeah, I think I lean into Vincent. And I draw him close to me. I'm going to like kiss him between his eyebrows. And I'm going to say, stay here, you strong and mighty warrior. And I'm torn between whether I'm trying to reveal my heart, like whether this is a moment of intimacy, or whether I'm unleashing the darkness to transform Vincent into something else. And I think what I'm looking for is input from the table on if they have feelings about that one way or the other.
Ooh. You could also be torn between, which is one of the moves.
Yeah, I thought about that too, because that is literally where I think I as a player am at right now.
But yeah. So what do we think? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sherri.
No, I've purposely left this for Finn to work out.
Oh yeah, like I really just like of those two options, is there one that people like more than the other?
I feel like revealing your heart would be so cool in this moment. But what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, it could potentially be an interesting moment of almost vulnerability for Finn, perhaps.
Yeah, let's do reveal your heart. Like, I mean, I think the way the move works is that I do like the admiration that he gives me is actually meaningful, significant to me, and is a form of devotion and love. And so I do think this is probably revealing your heart. Like, this is me actually having a moment of like the as close as I get to sincere intimacy with someone, and it is me bringing myself down to like human level at that point. So let's do that. We're going to spend and roll. We're going to go with the classic of 2 for me. And that's an 8.
Nice. Perfect. This is so rare in this move. I'm just going to say that now. Okay, so reveal your heart. On an 8 to 10, your heart reaches theirs. Choose one. But yeah, so which one do you want to choose?
I'm going to soothe. I'm going to clear one condition.
How does Vincent do that? Like, what do they do or say in order to soothe your heart? Help clear that condition?
Yeah, I actually think what we see is like Vincent looks up at me like after I do that. And I just think it is literally like looking into the eyes of another person. Like I said, it's very rare for me to acknowledge Eliza, but it's also not usually this intimate of a moment. And I think it's part like looking into Vincent's eyes in this moment of intimacy. But I think what I actually see is like as I say that thing, like even without meaning to, there's a level at which it's not so much just that he soothes that within me, but he actually takes a little bit of that rage on himself as I basically leave him here in that protector defender. So we actually see like the non-desired like slight taint of this, even in this very human moment. The difference between us is my rage transfers to Vincent, like it soothes out of my heart and kind of pours over him. As he kind of turns to defend us.
Ooh, perfect. Right. And so when that happens, we see him like pull back the jacket to reveal a holster that was underneath. And the rage that he takes from you when he touches the gun, you see it burn bright red hot. And he leans over and he says, "My lord, my master, with your rage and my love for you, I will take death and become your perfect warrior." Right. And he is fervent. He is absolutely held in the grips of faith and desire for you. And he says, "When I next see you, my lord, I will be reshaped to be stronger for you." So that is when he rushes back towards the other side of the bunkers and he starts firing the gun, and you can tell the infiltrators, the shadows, are drawn to the sound. And he starts, Eliza, you recognize the training. So even though this Vincent doesn't remember the division or working for it or anything, there is something going on here, right? Where he is perfectly executing all of the offensive maneuvers that the librarians of the division have learned what is going on with this agency, where the librarians are this like aggressive. But there are the forbidden archives. There are dangerous things in the library. So he does that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, there's a moment when he like looks at you, right? But he doesn't see you as he goes and just off into the bunker.
Yeah. And I think there's that moment where she's standing behind the witch who's like got her fingers at the water and is trying to ward away or find that information. And you can see that like there's tears, but they're ghost tears, right? So they're more the idea of tears that's sort of flowing like blackness down her face. And she reaches out to touch the oldest witch and she goes, "Come, you have to make it out of here. You're the only one that can return the oldest house to what it's supposed to be."
You say this is the oldest witch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they turn to look at you and they nod and they say, "I am not the only one, but I am all that we have left." It's true. And there's a way that they say this that you realize you have lost allies in the previous loops that have died and have not made it this far, right? And the oldest witch says,
losing another one, right? Right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the oldest witch says, each time we lose someone, it doesn't get any easier, does it?
Because that's how they get you. Come on, we've got to go. And I'll grab her hand, like two kids do in some ways, and start running the other way.
Right. And
towards to catch up with the others.
Yeah, right. And so Nero leads, right? Because we're still following Nero's like sharpened hunger to get to that other side. But you can hear the gunshots in the distance. You can hear the sludge and the ichor move, and you can hear no screams because Vincent does not scream when he dies. And so we reach the other side. Nero, as your hunger pulls you forward, you can feel the door is getting closer and closer, and it is overwhelming, the sense of power, what the harbingers are coming here for. The power that is in this door, that is in this oldest house, it is ancient. That's all you can tell. It is old, and it has been waiting for a long time. And you find yourself at this door that leads you to the surveillance room. You see dozens of screens flicker in unison, each one showing a live feed. Though you can tell like several of them are like static and can't quite focus. And you realize it's the one starting from the hotel, the hotel lobby where you were, right? And so this shows you that whatever is watching you, right, wasn't able to keep eyes on you. The surveillance room was abandoned, no longer deemed useful, right? And so an empty seat in front of the screens is covered in blood, fresh. You can tell like whatever was here, and it's a lot of blood. But, who can really tell in the oldest house what is too much or enough to, but it's a lot. It's the seats completely covered. Nero, you see past versions of yourselves on the screen, right? You see like those from the previous loops. What is one of the Neros doing in one of these screens that really shocks you?
I think looking directly at the camera.
Oh, so good. I think there's a moment when this Nero like just looks, and it's one of those things where like he's off in the distance, but just looks straight at the camera and then just like gives off this like little wave, right? And then you can see like in his other hand, there is something or someone that looks like Eliza, like being held by the scruff of the neck, right? And then this Nero drags whatever this is off into the shadows.
That's a bummer for that, Eliza.
Bummers all day long.
Absolutely. So you can see like the oldest witch like looks at the blood, right? Looks at the screens and they look confused. They're like, no, we're supposed to be at the rector's office. And they look and they realize something. Oracle can't see us, but they're making it difficult for us to access the door. Right. And you can see like they're looking towards the screen. And even though they're free of the dream, you can tell that they're weakened, right? Like you can tell that they've been really pushing themselves up to this point. They're just trying to hold themselves together. They like lean onto Eliza a little bit to catch their breath, right? But you can tell that they're having a hard time. So, and compared to the rest of the oldest house, this room is so cramped. It is so tiny. It is so small. It is just screens and lights flickering and static in some of these screens. What do we do?
I think I'm going to grasp for keys because essentially this is an awesome time to figure out what's not on the screens other than just the hotel.
Smart. What else they can't keep track of? Exactly.
So, so I will spend my, as they say, the classic 2, right? I will make a roll at grasping keys. So try to hit the plus button. No, not the click. Oh, it's on that side. Okay, here we go. Click. Oh, a disastrous success.
Oh my gosh. These dice. These dice. Well, 11 is not so bad, right?
So what? 1 bond to bring it down to a 10, right?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's a point.
You know,
and that's practically a bargain, right?
You know, and it's not like you need bonds for when you actually face the Harbinger later on. It's okay if you don't have any left by then. Totally fine.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That makes sense. And I think the thing is that I do see that Nero dragging that knee off. So I think I'll just use up that bond with Nero. Going, yeah, these things kind of keep playing out over and over again. Me, Finn, Nero. Okay. So I'll use that and take myself to a 10.
I have a good question for the bond that you just spent with Nero. So we already established that there's someone who draws art of what happens between the 3 of you, right? And puts it on the fridge of the break room.
Who knows who?
But who is the division agent that puts together these like 3 fan cams, like of you 3, like, you know, and like distributes the video
oh gosh,
throughout the office DMs, right?
I think it's
Division
like
Slack.
Yeah, the division Slack. I really think that it's like the receptionist because she actually doesn't have a lot to do. And so she's become like where she does all the, like, she goes and checks the security fees of the actual division, and she goes through the files, and she's been working on like taking art classes and stuff and all of those things and how to do video and stuff. So this is just like what she does to practice what she's going to do when she gets a real job.
Right. So she's taking online classes in video editing. Perfect.
Exactly.
And practicing with the 3 of you. Okay. Yes. And so we see like flashes of those videos, right? Okay, so we have hit our perfect hit, right? You uncover a key, and I will tell you what it is. So let me look at my yummy list. So let's see. So you were specifically looking for like what else is not showing up on the screens.
That's what I said, yes. Mm-hmm.
And so you realize that's what's not showing up on the screens aside from the hotel and the bunkers on your way here. It is also you're able to like sharpen the images, and you realize like you're the only one seeing this like on screen. Like whatever is connected to Oracle, it's not reaching them. And there is another location. It looks like a museum, right? It has like creepy, darkened version of the British Museum vibes. It really
which is kind of like the Division trophy room in some ways.
Yes. For people who play Destiny, it looks exactly like Val the Disciple. So it's all like black and gleaming and large. And there's all this open space, these trophies that are taken ostensibly. They are supposed to be categorized aspects of harbingers that have been defeated or parts of the door. It is meant there to be studied and observed, but it really does feel like a trophy room. There is a sense of menace about this place. And you know that this particular version of this museum has never existed in the Division, you know, but it exists here in this oldest house. And so I'm going to say it's like as part of grasping the key, you can, if you want, reach out and touch the screen and you'll be instantly transported to the museum.
Okay. And I think she kind of, in that sense, she sort of goes, okay, I think I can get us there. And she'll reach her hand out and bloop. She'll touch the screen.
Perfect. And so when you touch the screen, the first thing you see is like the oldest cat, like grooming themselves, like here in the museum. And the particular key that you find is, you see like there's a micro cassette recorder. Wow, there's so much like old tech in this. I know I wrote this mystery, but I'm always surprised. Anyway, so it looks like, I'm trying to figure out how to, like a thinner version of a cassette player, right? So it's like small and thin, it fits perfectly in your hand. Before you even touch it, it starts to like play back by itself. And you hear your own voice saying, please listen to me. I don't have much time before the next reset. If you're listening to this, if you're in the museum, it means that we've lost someone. It's always someone that we lose. It's always, that's how they get us, she says. And you hear her taking a deep breath. It's almost always Vincent. It's almost always Vincent. No matter how hard I try, death won't let him go. Death keeps taking him. Death keeps, it's a price I don't want to have to pay anymore. And you can hear like the desperation and the anger, but it's so worn down. This Eliza is so tired. And she says, I've been in the oldest house for more than 300 days now. But the next reset is coming soon. I know it because I forced it to happen. They'll forgive me for what I've done. Like, you'll have to forgive me, Eliza, she says. This is all for Vincent. Remember that. And then the cassette stops playing. So I'm going to place this key into our map. But do you have any questions about the key that you received? Any clarification that you would like?
No, I kind of like that as it is. All right.
Do you let other people hear it? Like, is there time for Nero and Finn to hear? Right.
It came through when I did, right?
Right. Yeah. And so as it plays back, Nero, it's very clear to you. You can like smell the dream on this thing. Like whatever this is not really a micro cassette player recorder. It is the dream of one.
Hmm. I think I kind of want to see if I can figure out what's dreaming that dream.
Ooh,
right?
Such a good question.
Right. So I think again, I think I'm investigating a key off of a key that we just investigated.
But it feels like such a good question though.
That yeah, right. You know, I'm not like I'm not power gaming here. These aren't real gamer hours. This is an interesting question. I currently have 1 darkness token. Have I recently done anything to earn
more?
Yeah.
Let's review how you earn darkness tokens.
Feel a yearning for what I cannot have. React with pettiness. Ask someone to feed me a part of themselves. Ask someone to give into their hunger. Embody a condition that affects me.
Ooh.
I mean, I think in recent actions, I feel like Nero has been listening far more to his hunger.
It's true.
It feels like I am embodying the gluttonous condition.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think I'll grab 2 for that and then spend 2 on grasping keys. Disastrous success.
Oh, amazing. We love to see it. So high at 13. Okay, these dice. This is why we love RPGs with dice. Okay, so you can spend bonds, but you know, the worst that happens is that there's a you still get the key.
Yeah, I could spend all of my 0 bonds that I currently have. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the ruin.
Oh no, you don't need to, because that's not a miss, right?
Oh yeah, I was looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
No, let's see what happens.
Yeah. So there's a significant complication cost or fallout. I'll tell you what it is, right? So you were trying to find the source of this particular dream.
Yeah, what is dreaming this dream of this cassette tape?
Right. And so when that happens, like you reach out with your senses, right? Do you actually pick up the cassette tape from like Eliza's hands, or do you just like reach with your senses from afar?
I think when Eliza is done listening to it, I'm not going to just like snatch it out of her hands. Like, I'm petty. I'm not that rude though. There's a slight, just a little bit of modicum here, just a little bit. But as soon as Eliza's done, it's like, yep, yoink. What's going on here? I'm investigating this now. I hope you weren't interested in it because I'm doing something.
And so when you grab it, you can sense it's so familiar when you're holding it. It's like, this is like when you have been holding the oldest cat and you realize that the source of this particular dream is coming from the oldest cat, but you can sense like an oldest cat that did not survive the previous reset. And that's when you realize you have been through, this is your 13th loop, the oldest cat told you. And you know that there are several copies of you each time, but there's never been a copy of the oldest cat. So the key that you take, that you receive, that you realize, is that in every loop, the oldest cat never survives. So I'm going to write that down. In every loop.
Oh, to start a new loop. Is that?
You had to kill the oldest
You have to kill a cat.
Yes. And so the complication that happens is, Eliza, you are gripped, right? You fully realize that something has gone wrong. You lost Vincent again. You lost him again in this loop. And all those previous Elizas, even the ones that were dead and killed by Nero, I'm going to point out, are filled with this rage, right? This, he was taken from me again. I have to reset this. I have to start up the loop again. And you look at the oldest cat and you're like, I have to do it, right? And so I want to stress, like, this is something your character is like, you can feel that whatever is infecting the oldest house is trying to infect you as well, right? And so Nero, you can recognize this dream of violence starting to overtake Eliza, right? And, you know, without her control, she's moving closer to the oldest cat. And the oldest cat looks at you, Nero, and blinks. And they're waiting to see what you do.
You can see a knife forming in Eliza's hand.
Oh, am I gonna do something to the cat, or we're gonna let Eliza do something to the cat?
What are you gonna do? But you'll start up another loop. Maybe you're not sure. What's gonna happen? And I think, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna be mean and say this is probably where we're gonna end the session. In this moment, if everyone's cool with it.
That's fine.
But what do we think?
I think that's
That's
great.
one heck of a cliffhanger.
Yep.
I love it. Awesome. For everybody who's just joining us, Judd Carlman says pet the cat. We'd planned we've been advertising this as a 3+ installation. So the plus is coming into effect. We will be back next Saturday for part 4 of our Apocalypse Keys actual play to find out if Eliza stabs the oldest cat, and if we can stop Doom's door from getting opened, or if one of us opens it. Who knows what's going to happen? Everything's on the table still. Awesome. I love it. Do we want to do end of session stuff?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a perfect time to roll into end of session. So for people who are listening, who are hanging out with us now, end of session is a good time for us to review what went on through specific questions, and this is how we earn XP in the game. So let's go over our end of session questions. The first one is so before we get into that, I personally like to start with the impulses because that's very juicy for me. So Nero, your question was, did you infect another being with your hunger? Is that right?
Yes. Did I infect another monster with hunger or desire?
Ooh.
Which I think so.
Yeah.
So the needle and thread monster, I let it take what it wanted and then let it be devoured by it.
Yeah, I would even argue that you let Eliza be infected by this desire to kill the oldest cat.
I must say what happened.
There's
right
that
too.
You know, that brutal, efficient Eliza. It's coming out again. We saw it last time.
Yeah.
So scary. I love it so much. Okay, so go ahead and mark XP for that. But speaking of Eliza, so what is your impulse question? Do you feel like you answered it?
Mine was, did I find someone or something worth living for? And mind you, Vincent is always one of the answers in that. But I also lost him. But I do think that her reaching out to the oldest witch, it was actually like her going, no, I have to take a hold of something that will fight for itself, essentially. So I think that there is that.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I love that so much. That's so sweet. Yeah, so go ahead and mark. I'm sorry. I said XP, but when it comes to the impulse question, you get to choose if it's ruin or XP, right?
I'll choose XP. I'm very close to ruining out.
Right.
So I wanna make it through the part of next session.
Perfect. Part of, okay. And then Finn, how about for your impulse question?
Oh, my impulse question was, did I taunt or seduce those who would seek to destroy you? Man, I did some taunting and seducing.
Yeah, all over the place. So good.
Yeah, for sure. With the sibling / needle thread, and then depending on how our conversation with the oldest witch went, potentially also too. So yes.
Nice. Are you marking XP or ruin?
So as we approach endgame, what does ruin do besides let you purchase ruin moves?
Ooh, okay. So mainly that's the juiciest bits and pieces, but you can also get like ruin conditions these are permanently marked and they're new ways for you to earn darkness tokens.
Okay.
Right. And so that's pretty juicy. Aside from that, it's mostly the ruin moves in my mind.
That's fine. I was just curious. We'll take I'm already gonna get one ruin. We'll take an experience.
Ooh. Okay, very cool. All right, and then let's go over our session questions. The first one is, did you express your monstrous nature and or express your humanity? What do you think, Nero?
I think so. I think there was a lot of monstrous nature being expressed.
Sherri nodding very emphatically. Accurate. Okay. And then how about for Eliza? Did you express your monstrous nature?
So I think participating in that kiss with the witch was definitely in the little dagger of death. Sure.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
help someone kill a dream.
Okay, and how about Finn?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when you revealed your heart to Vincent, that was such a significant moment. So, one I will cherish. Our second question is, did you learn something significant about yourself and or your impending ruin? So, Nero, did you learn something significant about yourself, or did you, Josh, the player, learn something significant about Nero?
I think there's more foreshadowing as to like, I feel like Nero's ultimate fate here. I think between that kind of comparison between Nero feeding on all these alternate selves and tying it to Finn and their siblings fusing together. So I think there's some layers being unfolded as to Nero's nature is going on here and what he might turn into.
Delicious. Very good. I agree. Eliza, did you learn something significant about yourself and or your impending ruin?
Oh yeah. I think the biggest thing was finding out that death has dumped their their obligations on me, their problems, their hang-ups on me. And that's like, in that sort of, that I'm supposed to break the veil of death and life, which is what they were trying to do with their lover of dream.
It's true.
There's nothing worse than.
This is the role of librarians, picking up the slack for everybody else.
Picking up the slack, having to take care of their research.
100%. Okay, perfect. And Finn, did you learn something significant about yourself?
Some of this is player facing. Like, I do really feel like I'm really enjoying, because every once in a while in a game, you really get the sense of like, and sometimes it's through randomness. Like sometimes it's through like, hey, this is random tables or like, but you get the sense of like this, you're kind of following the character around and making decisions for it. And that's very much how I feel with Finn right now. Where I'm like, I'm very excited and surprised about the different places Finn is going and getting to go. And I think PBTA games do that very well when they're very well designed, and I'm loving like constantly getting to be surprised by it. But I mean, even just simply being like, oh, I learned that Finn is the youngest sibling today, right?
Yeah.
Which I had already been thinking like, where does he fall in things before, but I had not made up that decision. And so 100% for that, I think we did.
So you were the last tier to fall?
I was the last tier to fall.
Wow, significant.
Yeah, actually. Very cool. Okay, and our next question is, did you learn something significant about a fellow monster? So Josh or Nero, did you learn something significant about Eliza or Finn or any of the other monsters you met?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there was something significant with the needle and thread monster. And the sort of relationship that past loop Nero's apparently has had with it. And then this most recent betrayal.
This poor harbinger used to be strong and mighty. Right? Excellent. I love that so much. Okay. And How about for Eliza or Sherri?
Oh yeah, I mean, this pretty much was just a session full of revelations. So yeah, again, the sort of weird trio of dream and death things that we did is just like so juicy and horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Yeah, and how about for you, Tony?
The Eliza causing the re-looping thing was good, but I also like one of my favorite moments that I do feel like it was a nonverbal, but like the eye contact between Eliza and Finn when we were just killing a dream that was inside the witch, like felt not necessarily about verbal learning, but about some level of I can have a relationship with this person. Like if I just acknowledge their existence, did feel like a learning moment also.
That is so cool. I love that so that is great. Okay, and then the last question is, did you uncover at least one key of the apocalypse or attempt to unlock Doom's door? If no, mark one ruin. So I think, did everyone grasp a key today?
No.
Oh, Finn did not. Finn went around like killing dreams and stuff. And
yeah, and
by the
time it was like time to be like we should be grasping keys, I was like everybody else was so on it that it was just like, I mean, same thing. It's like you can just get in that mode of like we're grasping keys, but I do like what Josh said about keys on keys. I've had that happen both times I've played Apocalypse Keys so far. Like when you're talking through what a key is and how it works, it'll sometimes lead to being like, hey, here's another key, right? Which still feels good as long as it's not just like, I want to know more about that. And so, but everybody else is doing such a good job with it. I did not. And so I'll take off a ruin.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Okay. So that's our end of session stuff. So that is our session of Apocalypse Keys, basically. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm so excited to see what happens because we've got quite a lot of keys, which felt very cool that we discovered today. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 keys, right? So which means if we try to unlock Doom's door with this number of keys, we're rolling at a +1, basically, for a complexity 6 mystery. So that's not bad. It's pretty good. And we still have 2 ticks on Doomsday Clock. We went a little, I was a little nicer this session. I'm going to be honest, we're probably going to start with the tick next session, but we'll see.
Maybe we just try to unlock the door right away so that you can just work that tick into our success or failure. Awesome.
This is also true.
Come back next week for part 4 of our actual play of Apocalypse Keys in the oldest house. We will see y'all then.